Good morning and welcome to the Weather Now. Time now is 11:07. Thanks for hanging on tight a few minutes with us while we got all these graphics, the new update, 11 o'clock advisory from the National Hurricane Center in to our weather computers. And of course, this is the big story. This is what we are watching, tracking, monitoring, however you label it. That's what we're watching here for the next few days. Today, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then it's on out of here. Right now, the center of circulation very near the western tip of Cuba, kind of going through the Yucatan Strait there. And if anything, this morning, it's visually looking more organized. Pressure has fallen. The sustained wind values have increased. So it's a strengthening storm system. And all of that is occurring in an area that is not that favorable for tropical storm strengthening. Here we have quite a bit of wind shear. Also noticing here as I kind of draw this in on my weather computer, more recently it's wrapping in some dry air from the Yucatan Strait, or not from the Strait, but from the Yucatan itself. And you can kind of see some of that dry air being wrapped into the center of circulation. And there is still some wind shear, but even in the face of those obstacles, Michael has managed to reach hurricane status today. And it's going to be moving into an environment, the Gulf of Mexico, that is more favorable for strengthening. So we have seen the intensity forecast, one of the hardest things to forecast with tropical systems, continue to increase here from the National Hurricane Center. And that is the case with the 11 o'clock advisory. Again, time now 11:08. I'm sure folks are still kind of coming in, seeing what's going on. Some of you may have the day off today. If so, today's a good day to monitor the weather. If you need to review your hurricane plan supply kit, maybe grab a few extra items just to be cautious. That, of course, is always a good move. But I'm going to do my best to answer some questions that you may have at home. But first, I just wanted to go into the synoptics behind it, kind of what it's dealing with today, the wind shear, some dry air. But bottom line, even with the obstacles that I just mentioned, it was still this is strengthening and moving into an environment that is even more likely to see strengthening. Mary says, cut the rattling, tell us where it's going and when. I'm going to get to that, but I have to kind of talk about all of this because it all plays into each other. Again, what's happening now, I want you to be able to understand and kind of look at a track and kind of know, be a little bit weather-minded when it comes to what is going on there, because it all plays into it. So, Mary, that's why I'm spending some time on that, and that's kind of what I tend to do. And here is the track, Mary, for you right now. Hurricane Michael, again, moving off to the north-northwest because it's strengthening. It's made pretty good progress here so far today. It's we don't want to see a strengthening system, but as far as science is concerned, really has taken advantage of everything it could. And now packing sustained winds 75 miles per hour, forecast to be nearing Category 3 status tomorrow morning, a little bit under 24 hours from now. By Tuesday evening, sustained winds 120 miles per hour. 8 a.m. Wednesday, it's off the coast of Florida as a Category 3 hurricane per the latest forecast, and I do agree with that. Certainly looking like a major hurricane is more and more likely. European data, the American model, pretty much all data here. The consensus is this will be a strong Category 2 or Category 3 hurricane upon landfall sometime midday Wednesday per the latest forecast, but some data is slower. So it could arrive along the Florida coast a little bit slower. 8 a.m. Thursday, it's beginning to accelerate, but still in the CSRA, maybe the Coastal Empire, maybe the Low Country, maybe the Midlands of South Carolina, maybe Middle Georgia. Of course, there is quite a bit of flexibility here, and the cone is just for the area in which the center may track. We have to remember this is a fairly broad system, some land interaction that allows the wind field to grow a little bit. So this is going to be a fairly decently sized system, and certainly will have impacts that extend well beyond wherever the center of circulation goes. So we're going to be dealing with this maybe midday, Wednesday, especially Wednesday evening, Wednesday night, more so Thursday. I think the worst weather is during the day Thursday, perhaps Wednesday night into Thursday. And then it doesn't stick around by Friday morning. It's way to our north and east and weakening. Not an issue for us. It's Wednesday later in the day into Thursday that still looks like the time that we are watching. Perhaps the worst, though, in a slowest case scenario is Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, and then we clear out Thursday night on the backside into Friday. So that's the timing. Jennifer says looking better for us. No, it's looking about the same. We haven't seen too many issues or haven't seen too many changes, I should say. No reason to be scared now. Again, just something to keep an eye on. Flooding is not going to be a huge concern here. Again, here's the kind of what we're watching. Again, forecast to be a Category 1, perhaps tropical storm as it makes its closest pass to our area. But mind you, forecast to make landfall as a Category 2 or 3 hurricane there in the Florida Panhandle. So think about this as no impact whatsoever to your day, and this is the worst it could possibly be. So I'm just going to lay that out for you. This is the worst it could possibly be, where it says high in red, and then no real impact to your day. It would be if these were all blank, if there was nothing going on here. So obviously isolated tornadoes, but relatively few in number. Something we'll be monitoring, though. We may have to increase this risk as we draw closer and we get a better idea what ingredients are here later Wednesday into Thursday. Gusty winds could be the biggest impact, certainly will impact us, even if it takes a more westward track through middle Georgia rather than the coastal empire. Still, we're going to be dealing with some gusty winds, enough to bring down some limbs, cause some power issues. That could be perhaps the most substantial impact from this storm system. The possibility of scattered to, in a worst case, widespread power outages. It could last for a few days. And we have a pretty strong onshore flow, easterly breeze even out ahead of this system, thanks to high pressure moving away. Michael down below in an area of low pressure off in the southwestern Atlantic. We have a pretty persistent and strong onshore flow. Tides already elevated. We were above 9 feet yesterday. Fort Pulaski and forecast remain near at flood stage during high tides. Perhaps even moderate flooding could occur there along Highway 80 as we get into the next few days. Rainfall flooding, not a big issue. We're dry. We're in a drought. We need the rain, but street flooding underneath the heavier downpour is certainly possible. But as far as widespread significant flooding, that currently is looking unlikely. That's why it's relatively low, but it is elevated. It's not zero because there is the possibility of some street flooding underneath the heavier downpours as the system moves on through. You're very welcome, Tammy. Thank you, Anna, for watching. Renee says, wow, our vacation first anniversary will have rain for a couple days. Yeah, that's unfortunately true. Let's see. Isaac Keisha Cooper says the Weather Channel says tropical storm force winds, just like Cutter. Generally, people are asking about their specific areas, and this is for everybody right here. I can't give you a specific wind speed in your backyard just yet. We just can't do that yet. But remember, on this scale, this is the worst it'll be to where your home's destroyed. We're not talking about that stuff. This is where nothing's going on whatsoever. So I want to try to, and you can let me know in the comments here if this is not the best way to kind of convey information, but just know that we're looking at low to moderate impacts, and perhaps gusty winds having the greatest impact. We could have tree damage, and we could have power line damage and generator, or transform, I should say, damage, and the possibility of isolated to, scattered power outages. Tyler, I'm not sure about an evacuation. Unlikely generally in this setup, but I don't order those. That is not from WTOC or any local media. That is from Chatham County, any other counties in our area. That is also from the state as well. So let's go through. Folks want to know about their communities. I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be, if I tell you something specific now, it'll change here with the next update. But what I will say, I'm going to kind of draw this out for you, and hopefully this kind of helps you as well. But let's say this takes a more, just so you know what to look out for as you see these different tracks here over the next few days. Let's say it does come up here and more into middle Georgia, maybe into the upstate of South Carolina. This would be better for us. Worse for them, better for us. We don't want them to have the bad stuff, but this would be better for us, coastal empire and low country. You know what, let me change the color of this arrow in case you can't see it at home, and I know I'm getting a lot of questions. I'm not going to be able to get to them all. You can always message me on Facebook. You can email me, find me on Twitter, and I'm pretty good. I will say I'm pretty good about answering back. So any questions you may have, if I don't get here, you can ask me elsewhere as well. But I will go back through and answer some that come in. You're very welcome, Michaela. Amanda says no, it'll be more inland. Again, I may be missing some things. Amanda says my husband works in Savannah, should go Wednesday and Thursday. Later Wednesday into Thursday is when the worst weather conditions will be. Sissy wants to know sustained wind gusts, how high? We could be looking at 40 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts. Again, that's a possibility, but it is dependent upon track. Now, if this were to make landfall as a Category 3 and race up here, taking a more eastward track, perhaps we could have solid tropical storm force winds, even sustained winds, relatively high. But we're talking tropical storm force conditions here, coastal empire and low country, similar to the impacts we have had from previous storms. Brittany, Cat 2 or Cat 3? Yeah, it's looking more like Cat 3 now, but remember, we can't rule out a little bit of weakening just prior to landfall, but it's kind of a moot point, right now. At least 2-3 impacts here are the same. For them, it may be a little different, but for us, it's going to be very similar. Kimberly wants to know, will it be like Matthew? I can't tell you, exactly. It's not always a good idea to compare to storms, but Hermine is a good analog here. It came up a similar direction. Winds may be a little bit gustier than with Hermine, but again, that is all dependent on track. If it takes this more westward track, just kind of laying it out for you, some data just suggests that, then we would have better conditions here. Now, if this were to take a hard right turn, which is still possible, and some of the more reliable data suggests this, as of earlier this morning. We'll have to see how that data evolves here going forward. Maybe a harder right turn, then we'd have worse conditions here. So just know, western Georgia, middle Georgia, the upstate of South Carolina, better conditions here. Into the Big Bend, Apalachicola area of Florida, then into the South Georgia, Valdosta area, Coastal Empire, Low Country. That's the worst case track for us in this particular storm scenario. Emily, will Beaufort County schools be closed? Unfortunately, I do not know. We're just going to have to see how this forecast evolves, see what local school officials say. I know that they're all monitoring it, so I'm sure we'll get some answers, have more information coming your way from all these people, officials and those in charge here over the next few days. Folks are talking about water, food generator, first aid, coffee. With you on the coffee, something that's easy to forget. But the first morning you wake up after a storm without any coffee, it's kind of a sad story. So just keep in mind, review your plans. If you should hopefully already have a hurricane kit. If you don't, no huge issue, but make sure that you have supplies, water, food, canned goods, non-perishables, batteries for flashlights, for emergency devices that you can get information from. Sarah wants to know about surge if it takes a hard right. Again, not expecting huge surge with this. We are going to have high tides here for the next few days. In fact, I can pull this up, and I'm going to go ahead and look at the official tide forecast from the National Weather Service. I'm going to pull that up from you. They have this really cool, basically, they have an entire team here that looks up, not just looks up, that's not the right word, that forecasts hydrologic forecasts, rivers, estuaries, tidal basins, really rivers, but some of those gauges are right there at the coast, and we can use those for tide forecasts. And they have an entire team. Yeah, if you could route weather picks into that, that'd be awesome. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and zoom on down. Remember, we are in a king tide right now. Tides are already really high, and you add an onshore easterly persistent breeze, a long easterly fetch here to the forecast, and you are bound to have some, at least minor coastal flooding. So here we go. I'm loading this up here. We're looking at our gauges. I'm going to go ahead and pull out Fort Pulaski, kind of representative of a lot of our Georgia, islands tides, especially near the Savannah River. And we're looking at the possibility of, minor flooding this morning, this afternoon, minor flooding to moderate flooding tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, high tide. And we're going to remain elevated around the times of high tide, which we're scrolling at your bottom of your newscast this morning, the news at daybreak. And we'll continue to update those as well through Wednesday to Thursday, but we're coming out of the king tide by then as the worst conditions that we do experience, whether they're on the worst end or the better end, arrive in our area Wednesday, later in the day, and a Thursday. By that time, we're coming out of our king tide. So that's good news for us. But for the next few days, at least minor to moderate coastal flooding possible. So Highway 80 to and from Tybee definitely could have some water over it. It was close this morning, could have some of those issues. This system, especially through early Wednesday, by Wednesday later in the day into Thursday, we are seeing looking like we're going to slide out of the king tide as conditions worsen, so it may actually be better for us. I'm going to step out of the way here, and I'm going to route our weather computer back into the monitor. All right, coming back here again, for those just joining, this arrow would indicate the worst case. Some data suggesting still more of a West Georgia, Middle Georgia, upstate of South Carolina sort of impact, and certainly that is possible. I'm doing great, Zachary. Thank you for watching. Hey there, Jeannie. Thank you for watching. Susan says it's freezing in the studio. I'm sure he doesn't wear it outside. Yes, it is chilly in the studio. I'm in an air-conditioned building right underneath the air conditioning vent, in fact. So yeah, that's why I'm wearing the sweater. All right, LaShanta says it's raining hard in Waycross, and it was windy as well. You know what? I'm going to pull up radar Now, we need to talk about today's weather as well because we do have downpours in the forecast today, Tuesday, into Wednesday. So Waycross, zooming down there, definitely have some rain in that area, but not severe. There's a good little shower moving on through. And it is continuing to move off to the north and west, perhaps into Pearson, maybe south of Douglas. So out of our areas, it kind of moves to 82 there, Fairfax, Dixie Union, and then further to the north and east. In the low country, we have a couple showers. Here near Chisholm, you may get rain again. You got rained on this morning. This going near Briar, Sheldon, northern Beaufort County, perhaps into southern Hampton County, southeast Hampton County, into Jasper County. And right now, Chatham County, the city of Savannah, Effingham County, Bryan County, Bullock County, the metro area, we are mostly dry, just a few showers out there. All right, let's see. May have missed a few. Already had quite a few comments come in. Suzanne said started sprinkling in Gum Branch. Thank you for that report. Amanda, thank you for watching. Yeah, for those that don't know what king tides are, sorry, I should have clarified, an extra high tide because of the moon and the astronomical influences. So we're in the middle of a stretch of very high tides. If you had a storm system move through during that time, that would only pile more water onto the already high tide. So we have no room to play with because that water is already filling up all the marshes because of the high tide. But because we're coming out of the highest tide, we have a little bit of room to sneak in some water and still be okay without any major coastal flooding issues. But we're playing it close. So we're looking at minor to moderate coastal flooding around the times of high tide, morning once and then evening once here for the next couple to few days. But the good news is, as the worst conditions, the worst possible conditions impact our area Wednesday night into Thursday, we're going to be coming out of the king tide. We'll have a little bit more room to pile some water into the marshes because of Michael and still not have the crazy flooding issues. Kimberly, what do I think Dublin will see from Michael? I think tropical storm force winds, a good bet, even inland, and heavy rain and the possibility of isolated tornadoes. Gina, Glenn County, again, I would prep for tropical storm force winds. Right now, everybody watching me in the WTOC viewing area, low country, coastal empire, let's prep for tropical storm force winds, knowing that if it takes a western route, conditions will be a little bit better, but let's plan to have the possibility of scattered power outages and at least isolated to scattered tree damage. Patricia, yes, there will be an isolated risk for tornadoes in Sylvania. Scott, how much of an impact on Tybee and wind? Late Wednesday, Thursday. And let's prepare for tropical storm force conditions on Tybee as well. Kaylee says we were supposed to be headed to Jacksonville for the zoo early Thursday through Saturday. We will still be good to do that. Friday, Saturday, yes. Thursday is questionable. You may have to delay that trip a little bit, but improving quickly. Friday and Saturday, you'll still make it down to the zoo down there. Dominique and Baxley, prepare for tropical storm force winds. Late Thursday or late Wednesday into Thursday. That's still the time that we're watching. Now, it is possible that on this track, if it within the realm of possibilities and some data suggests this could happen, if this takes a more westward track, then perhaps maybe on the western side of this cone of uncertainty, as some data suggest, if it takes a track on this west side, conditions will be better for us. We will still have a risk of severe weather. We will still have squally weather and isolated power outages. But if this were to take a more eastward track, which is possible as well, certainly coastal empire, low country, we will be under the gun with tropical storm force winds, scattered power outages, isolated tornadoes, and at least some brief heavy rainfall. Statesboro, prepare for tropical storm force winds. What's interesting about this, Uvalde as well, we can kind of blanket the forecast here. I think everybody, low country and coastal empire, I can say go ahead and prepare for tropical storm force winds. That's what we need to be prepping for right now. Prepare for a couple days without power, kind of in a worst case, but let's prepare for that worst case so that in case it does happen, you're good to go. And if it doesn't, no harm, no foul. All those supplies can be reused for the next hurricane season or the next tropical weather threat here locally. So that's the latest. We now have a Hurricane Michael, forecast to make landfall as a major hurricane. Perhaps, we'll have to see if it maintains its strength, which it very well could, approaching Florida, but it will be ingesting a little bit of dry air, a little bit of wind shear as it approaches the coast. It is late in the year. We have a trough of low pressure approaching from the west, so may be its strongest offshore, let's just say that. But still, we need to take this extremely seriously. This is a dangerous system for Florida in particular. And let's all prepare for tropical storm force winds and the possibility of power outages and some tree damage. Worst weather Going to leave you with this thought before reminding you where to get the latest news weather information Wednesday night into Thursday. Those are your first alert weather days. Those are the days to watch. And now for kind of a reminder where you can get the latest weather information, WTOC.com on TV and the WTOC weather app. Now, a couple features within the app. I have videos up at the top of the app, one discussing Michael, one discussing today's weather, even ahead of Michael. We're going to be updating those videos constantly as rain moves in. And remember, we have showers and storms in the forecast today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. Even ahead of Michael, you can get the latest in the WTOC weather app and your extended forecast as well as the Watch Live feature. So let's say your kiddos still have practice today, tomorrow. You still have your errands to run. You're in the grocery store, going down the aisles. Maybe you're getting your supplies. You can watch the newscast live just there in the palm of your hand with the WTOC weather app. So just a couple reminders for you. Again, tropical storm force winds. Rachel wants to know, what is the mile per hour kind of range for tropical storm force winds? Sustained winds 40 to 60. That would be a kind of a more significant case for us. There is a possibility we don't see winds that strong, but sustained winds greater than 40 miles per hour, enough to cause some tree damage and to cause scattered power outages. Some areas possibly lasting longer than a day or two. So prepare for that. And again, we're going to be putting more information to you, out to you, your family, your friends here locally over the next few days. We actually have a web story, WTOC.com, right there on the homepage. You can visit that as well. But for now, time now 11:28. I'm going to sign off. Chief Meteorologist Dave Turley is in the Weather Center. He's going to be updating the forecast. So more of this information, talking about today's downpours, and a look ahead to Wednesday and Thursday's forecast coming up on B News at noon.